What is going on, ALGORIDGMO Mafia guys? How are the people doing? Listen, man, I hope everybody's doing great. I am filming off a new camera. This is, a camera I've had for a long time, so I hope the quality is a bit better. But today, guys, UFC Fight Night, Jack Hermansson versus Joe Pyfer will be taking place this weekend, guys, and we have a banger of a Fight Night card. This event deserves a crowd, okay? That's all I'm going to say. This should, it should not be in the Apex, but regardless, man, I will be giving out my full card predictions. We went 9-3 last week, I believe. We got a pretty good picking percentage over here, so I'm very confident this week too we should get the job done. There's not much else to say, guys. I would really appreciate if you guys could smack that like button before we get into the predictions. Comment your predictions. Who do you think is going to win? There's not much to say. Let's get straight into it. So, in the bantamweight division, to start off the event, we have Daniel Marcos taking on Aoriqi Lang. Now, I feel like both these guys at bantamweight are pretty mid. I don't really think much of Aoriqi Lang. He's kind of just a guy who can beat the below average guys in the UFC. And Daniel Marcos is a guy who can make it close with decent fighters in the bantamweight division. But I don't see Daniel Marcos really, getting into that top 15. But regardless, I think there's going to be a skill difference here. And I will go with Daniel Marcos. He's undefeated. Arguably lost to Davey Grant. I'm not going to ignore that. But, if you're going tit for tat with Davey Grant, I don't know how Aoriqi Lang would do against Davey Grant. And Aoriqi Lang hasn't really fought anyone that good. He's beat guys like Cameron Else, Jay Perrin. He lost to Jeff Molina, the Zesty King. He's had a bit of a weird run in the UFC. So, my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Daniel Marcos winning a unanimous decision, 29-28. I think he's just going to tip-tap his way to a decision, just kind of pitter-patter. I wouldn't be surprised if he got like a second-round finish, but I think he will get a decision. So give me Daniel Marcos. I would have him as a comfortable parlay piece, to say the least. I think he can get the job done. So, moving on into the featherweight division, we have Fernie Garcia versus Haider Amil. Now, Fernie Garcia is taking this fight on very short notice, maybe like a week's short notice. Haider Amil has had a full camp. He was supposed to fight Melsik Bagdasaryan. And my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Fernie Garcia. This might be a bit of a stupid pick, but I will trust in Fernie Garcia, to get the job done. I don't really like Haider Amil. There's just something about Haider Amil I'm not really, impressed with. He's good. He sets a good pace, good enough hands, good enough boxing, good takedown defense, but Fernie Garcia is on a 3-fight losing streak, and I think he's going to be very, very hungry to get the job done. I don't know what it is. I just think Fernie Garcia is going to be very hungry. Like, he does not want to fucking lose this fight and then get kicked out of the UFC. Maybe he does, but I'm not really that big of a believer in Haider Amil. So for now, I'm going to pick Fernie Garcia. But if Haider Amil has a great performance, then I'll probably, pick him in the future fights. But I think Fernie Garcia got good striking, decent enough grappling. He was able to go to a decision against Rinya Nakamura. He got dominated there, but he looked okay. I just haven't seen enough from Haider Amil for me to just be like, okay, I'm going to pick him. But regardless, I got Fernie Garcia winning by decision. This is one of those picks I'm kind of willing to lose because I don't like Haider Amil. So we're going to move on into the light heavyweight division. Zach Pauga taking on Bodgan Gusov. Now, this again is kind of a pick and fight. Zach Pauga's coming in as a slight favorite, which I completely disagree with. But then again, I don't think Bodgan Gusov should be the favorite either. I will say that there's not many underdogs on this card, but I do think that Bodgan Gusov is a great, not parlay piece, but he's a good underdog, man. So if you want to sprinkle on Bodgan Gusov, I think he can get the job done. He's had one fight in the UFC against a top 10 opponent. He was destined to lose that fight. Most guys would lose, their first UFC fight against a top 10 opponent. So, Zach Pauga, on the other hand, I don't really rate too much about this guy. He's got a good clinch game, decent enough striking, but he's not really skilled. He got knocked out by Muhammad Usman, lost to Modestas Bukauskas as of recently. I think, I like Bodgan Gusov here. I think Gusov can kind of walk down Pauga, eat all of his shots. If he's not getting clinched up or taken down, I do see Gusov landing a solid punch on Zach Pauga and knocking him out. I do believe that Zach Pauga is a little bit, suspicious with the durability of his chin. But regardless, I will be going with Bodgan Gusov by knockout here, guys. I might sprinkle Bodgan Gusov here. There's not many underdogs on this card, I think, that are going to win. But I do like Bodgan Gusov's chances. I don't think Zach Pauga is all that good, to be honest. So, let's get straight into the next fight, alright? We have Jeremiah Wells versus Max Griffin. This is going to be a fucking banger. This is a fight that I'm really excited for personally, alright? Jeremiah Wells coming off a loss to Carlson Harris where he got submitted. He was dominating that fight, that whole fight. Got caught up in a submission late in the fight. I'm sure he's going to learn from his mistakes. And Max Griffin, on the other hand, he's a decent fighter. This guy's got good hands, good boxing combinations, good straight punches. decent enough takedown defense. He's a veteran, man. He's a veteran. But I'm going to trust Jeremiah Wells to get the job done here by decision. I see people are assuming he's going to get the knockout, but Max Griffin is a one fucking tough sob. One tough guy. I don't think he's ever been knocked out ever. Maybe by like Colby Covington, but that was more like an exhaustion TKO. So, Max Griffin, man, super tough dude. He's a savage. I just don't think he has enough skill to beat Jeremiah Wells. I would like to pick Max Griffin here. I do really want to pick Max Griffin here, but I'm going to go with Jeremiah Wells. As I was saying, if Jeremiah Wells loses to Max Griffin, kick him out of the UFC. He does not deserve to be in the UFC at that point. I'm going to trust in Jeremiah Wells to get the takedowns. You know what I mean? Just really kind of spam the takedowns and have a good pace set on Max Griffin towards his fight. I think Max Griffin's another good underdog here, man, though. He's tough, good takedown defense. You know, can strike, can keep a pace. But I will go with Jeremiah Wells by decision. We move on to, in the light heavyweight division, Devin Clark taking on Marcin Pratnio. This is just your typical light heavyweight fight. It really is. Marcin Pratnio got knocked out by Sam Alvey. I don't really think much of Marcin Pratnio, I'm not going to lie. He's a good kickboxer, but he's very slow for a light heavyweight. Devin Clark, on the other hand, is very explosive, really good wrestling. He does have knockout power. I mean, he's got decent enough striking, but he really relies on his wrestling. And I do believe that he's just going to out-wrestle Marcin Pratnio to a decision, kind of keep him up against the fence. Maybe Pratnio has some success on the feet with the striking, maybe throw some kicks. But I think Devin Clark is he's good, man. You know, he's just like the gatekeeper of the light heavyweight division. I'm a big Devin Clark fan, so I think he should get this done. But I got Devin Clark by 29-28 unanimous decision. We move on to a strawweight bout between Loma Lookboonmee versus Bruno Brazil. Now, this is pretty interesting. I see a lot of people picking Loma Lookboonmee, but I also see people picking Bruno Brazil. I'm not going to spend too much time on this fight. I will go with Loma Lookboonmee. I'm a big fan of Loma Lookboonmee. She's got great kickboxing, Muay Thai. She's like a Muay Thai world champion from Thailand. And she actually got a submission recently in her last fight. That's pretty crazy, right? You know, she's expanding her skill set. She's able to get the grappling within it. She understands how to grapple nowadays. So I'm going to trust in Loma Lookboonmee to get the job done. I think she will outstrike Bruno Brazil. I would not be surprised at all Bruno Brazil just won. You know, like I don't know what it is, but you know, this is how women's MMA works, so it is what it is. Next up, guys, we have Balaji Oki versus Timothy Kwamba. Now, this is a short notice replacement fight. You know, Balaji Oki was supposed to fight Damir Hadzovic, and this is going to be a very interesting fight, alright? Timothy Kwamba, I think I saw this guy fight on the Contender Series. He's got, like, good boxing. I don't think he actually won his fight on the Dana White Contender Series. I'm pretty sure he got a robbery victory, but regardless, you know, he's a decent fighter, man. He sets a decent enough pace, good boxing, but I think Balaji Oki is going to staunch him within one round here. I think Balaji Oki is fucking legit. This guy's a menace. This guy's a menace, bro. Like, I've seen his highlights. He walks people down, does not give a single shit. Has so much power in his shots. He wants to knock you out, dude. He's a savage. I think he does actually have a good skill set. The gas tank is a little bit questionable. You know, I don't know if he can go, you know, a full 3 rounds. But I'm going to go Balaji Oki by, like, first round knockout. I think he's just going to go in there and just do what he does best. Maybe a second round KO. We're going with Balaji Oki by knockout regardless. But we're going to move on into the welterweight division, alright? We got my boy Trevon, the Problem Giles. Officer Giles taking on Carlos the Nightmare Pratt. Now, I watched Carlos Pratt fight on the Contender Series. This dude's a fucking savage, man. This dude, he's 17-6, not the best record, but he looks to be making drastic improvements in his career. He is dangerous. Dangerous. He has vicious head kicks, really good stand-up. I've seen he's had about like 100 professional Muay Thai fights. That's not even a joke either. He has a Muay Thai tattoo on his chest, so that's how you know he's embedded in the game. Coming in as a moderate favorite here. 84% on Tapology at picking Pratt. That's pretty fucking insane. And listen, man, I'm a big Trevon Giles fan. I actually like Trevon Giles. I've been watching this dude fight for years now. He's got a couple good wins in the UFC. He looked to be very promising, but as of right now, he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like his best days are behind him. That, you know, that sucks to say. I want Trevon Giles to win it. It would be pretty sick to see him just kind of pull off an upset here. The only way I see Trevon Giles winning this fight, guys, is if he wrestles. But knowing Trevon Giles, I don't think he's going to want to wrestle. I think he's just going to want to prove a point, you know, stand in trade with Carlos Pratt. I think Trevon Giles will have some success on the feet against Pratt, but you don't want to be standing, you know, you don't want to be striking with a guy like Carlos Pratt, you know, a seasoned kickboxer, brutal fucking knees up the sternum, just nice body kicks, head kicks, Go watch Carlos Pratt's fight, man. He's got an insane kickboxing type of style. Kind of walks you into like his knees, and he hits extremely hard, dude. Has a 78-inch reach. Fucking insane. Like athletically gifted, juiced up to the maximum on that sauce. If you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I really like Carlos Pratt in this fight, guys. I'm going to add him to my parlay. We will have him as a parlay piece over here on the channel. Man, he's good, man. He's fucking good. I don't want to speak too much about this prediction, but I'm going to go Carlos Pratt by a second round knockout. I think the first round is going to be a filling out process, but I think Carlos Pratt is going to be landing some big shots on him, be kicking the shit out of him, and then second round he's going to fight that shot. Give me Carlos Pratt by a second round knockout. We move on into the first fight on the main card, alright. Rodolfo Vieira taking on Armen Petrosyan. This is a very interesting fight, alright. Armen Petrosyan will be coming in as a slight underdog, which I don't understand. I don't understand. You know, I really don't know why Rodolfo Vieira is the favorite here. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not impressed with Rodolfo Vieira at all. This guy is just whack, man. I don't really think Rodolfo Vieira is that good of an MMA fighter. Like, that's just how it is. He's got incredible grappling. Like, he's one of the best jiu-jitsu players of all time, right? He's a fucking, not only a black belt in jiu-jitsu, like one of the best jiu-jitsu guys of all time. Like, go look this guy up. Insane highlight skills in jiu-jitsu. You know, his bread and butter is obviously his jiu-jitsu. But Armen Petrosyan, man, he's a great kickboxer. Very seasoned kickboxer. Very composed guy. He's not going to be, you know, he's not going to really, like, be hesitant to throw punches and that. I do believe that he's going to have to worry about the takedown here. But he's coming off a really good win in his last fight, man, against Christian Leroy Duncan. Looked really good in that fight. Just kind of exposed Christian Leroy Duncan. Just kind of outclassed him with the kickboxing. And, man, I like Armen Petrosyan here. You know, this might be my underdog of the week. I really think that he will be able to stop the takedowns. Just make sure to not give up his back against the cage. Because we've seen Armen Petrosyan, he does get taken down. He will give up his back at times. And, Rodolfo Vieira, if you give your back to him, you're probably going to get submitted. But regardless, I don't know why Rodolfo Vieira is the favorite. Maybe we watch this fight and he ends up just smoking Armen Petrosyan. Then we'll see why. But other than that, you know, 74% of people are picking Armen Petrosyan. So the odds makers don't really know what's happening here. I feel like a lot of cash will be getting put on Armen Petrosyan, including myself, later in this week. So all Armen Petrosyan has to do is stuff the takedowns, keep this fight on the feet, and he will probably finish Rodolfo Vieira with striking. Rodolfo Vieira can't strike. You know, he's got a good jab, but that's about it. He sets up his takedowns with his striking. He's tough. Rodolfo Vieira is tough, man. You know, he can take body shots, he can take a beating, but I think Armen Petrosyan is just way too good for him on the feet. Like, he's just going to kick the shit out of him, you know, walk him down at times. He's just got to not get taken down, and he wins his fight very comfortably. So give me Armen Petrosyan to win this fight by a 29-28 decision or a second round TKO. Let's get straight into the next fight, guys. Michael Johnson taking on Darius Flowers. This should be intriguing, man. This should be very intriguing. Michael the Menace Johnson, man. Where do we go with this guy? He's 21-19, a UFC legend in my honest opinion. I don't care what you say. Michael Johnson, you know, he's an underground legend. He's been in the UFC for a very long time. He's a good guy. I like Michael Johnson, alright, but as of recently, he's been on a very rough skid. He lost to Diego Ferreira by knockout. I mean, if you haven't seen that knockout, that was extremely fucking brutal. That was brutal to watch. Extremely brutal. He came off a win over Mark Jacasey before that, so he's shown flashes of his old self. But Darius Flowers here, man, is dangerous. He is dangerous. 12-6-1, made his UFC debut against Jake Matthews, who, you know, Jake Matthews is the GOAT. Jake Matthews was able to submit him, make pretty easy work of Darius Flowers, but regardless, I like Michael Johnson here in this fight, man. You know, I see a lot of people picking Darius Flowers, and that's understandable. Darius Flowers does have a lot of power in his hand, but Darius Flowers is not that good, man. Like, he's not. I mean, Michael Johnson might be really chinny nowadays, but he's got a ton of skill, man. You know, I really think that Michael Johnson could beat a lot of dudes outside the top 15. Like, he's still got it. He's just slowed down a lot. And I think, you know, people are picking Darius Flowers by knockout here, which is fair enough. You know, a lot of people think he's going to land one on Johnson's chin, put him away. But I don't see Michael Johnson losing to Darius Flowers. You know, I get it. Michael Johnson's lost to so many dudes in the UFC, but yeah, Darius Flowers is not UFC caliber. Like, he's not, you know. If he does beat Michael Johnson, then fair play. I know a couple of my buddies that are picking Darius Flowers, so fair enough. But I'm going to go with Michael Johnson now. I think he's going to win this fight by knockout. I really do believe he's going to win this fight by knockout. They're gonna be brawling with each other. And MJ's a clean fucking striker, man. This guy has boxing combinations for days. Some of the best hands in MMA history. That's maybe I'm glazing Michael Johnson, but if you go look at this guy's, you know, previous training footage, he's piecing up Kamaru Usman in training. He's shown flashes of brilliance, but that's why he's just extremely 50-50, you know what I mean? He's taken a lot of damage. I think he should have a good performance here, though. I just can't pick Darius Flowers, you know. If he does win, then I will be pissed off, but I don't see it happening, you know what I mean? Michael Johnson got caught with a perfect shot on the chin by Diego Ferreira. You know, it is what it is. I think he's going to come back focused, ready, defensively sound too, you know, because he doesn't want to get knocked out. And he's got crazy combinations, dude. I can see Darius Flowers with his chin up high in the air, trying to brawl with this dude, getting chinned. You know, done. You're done. So, I will go with Michael Johnson by a second round knockout. I won't be surprised if Darius Flowers gets the job done. But we're going to move on to the middleweight division, guys. We have a fucking banger on the main card, alright? We have our boy Brad Tavarez taking on Gregory Rodriguez. I am extremely excited for this fight. Now, if you know anything about Brad Tavarez, this guy has been around in the UFC for a long time. You know what I mean? For a super long time. He's had like 15, 20 UFC fights. He's a veteran at this point. And he's a very game opponent, man. Brad Tavarez is known as one of the best anti-wrestlers in the UFC, you know, being able to stuff takedowns. He has a great takedown defense, but he is a bit chinny, man. He's been knocked out 4 times in his UFC career. You know, there's a highlight reel of him just getting chinned by random people. So, Gregory Rodriguez, on the other hand, he also is a little bit chinny, right? You know, he recently got knocked out by Bruno Ferreira. Before that, he got knocked out by, what's his name? Jordan Williams on the Dana White Contender Series, which is not a good look at all. But he's shown some glimpses of brilliance, right? You know, he's been finishing dudes back to back to back. He beat Dennis Tululum by knockout, beat Chidi Njokuani by knockout, beat Julian Marquez by knockout, went to a split decision against Petrosian, which a lot of people thought that he won. He knocked out John Young Park. So this guy is fucking legit RoboCop. You know, I'm a big fan of this dude. He is a savage. But at the end of the day, my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with RoboCop. I'm going to go Gregory Rodriguez in this fight. I do believe that this fight is not going to go the distance, and I think RoboCop is going to try and absolutely destroy Brad Tavarez. Brad Tavarez could knock out Gregory Rodriguez. I could see it. I honestly can. But Brad Tavarez is not known for knocking anybody out, so this guy doesn't have like that much power in his hands, whereas Gregory Rodriguez, this guy is a physical specimen, bro. He looks 50 years old. He's only 30. He's probably been taking a lot of steroids over the time, or a lot of juice, whatever. But he's knocked out a lot of people. Like I said, he's on a finishing streak. Brad Tavarez is a little bit chinny. This is a recipe for disaster for Brad Tavarez, because if this fight goes the distance, I can see Brad Tavarez winning this fight if it goes the distance. But inside the distance, Gregory Rodriguez should be able to just smoke him, dude. Walk him down. You know, just knock him out. I mean, Bruno Silva knocked out Brad Tavarez not even that long ago, nine months ago. So, I do believe Gregory Rodriguez can do the same, guys. Give me Gregory Rodriguez by a second round knockout. This is a bang of a fight, guys. Make sure you stay tuned and make sure you watch this fight. We move on to the next fight on the main card. In the middleweight division, pardon me, we have Iho Peteria versus Robert Brzyczek. Now, Robert Brzyczek is fighting out of Poland, I believe. This dude is dangerous, 17-5, a lot of knockouts. He's been fighting in Octagon, I believe. I don't know where he's been fighting, to be honest, but it seems as if he's been fighting good competition. You know, 28-17 is not that good. 16-5, 7-1, 11-12, 12-7. Ugh, that's a bit stinky. So not the best caliber of competition, but regardless, Iho Peteria, on the other hand, is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. You know, he's decent. He's not a bad fighter. He was doing really good against Rodolfo Bellato in his last fight, was piecing him up as a big underdog. Like, really was so close to finishing Bellato. Bellato's just made out of iron, though, and was able to survive, come back, get the W. Super surprising. I don't know how Peteria let that fight go. He was supposed to win it, but regardless. My prediction for this fight, guys, I'm just going to go with Robert Brzyczek here, man. I'm going to go with Robert Brzyczek here. I think technically the better fighter will be Robert Brzyczek. I think he has a lot more power in his hands than Iho Peteria. Peteria is dangerous, man. I wouldn't mind seeing him get a W. Maybe he does win this fight, but short notice for him. I believe he's taking this fight on like a week's notice. Not the best conditions. Brizchek is on a big momentum streak right now, on a 5-fight winning streak. Maybe he's even on a higher winning streak. I can't tell. Regardless, though, I think Robert Brizchek has some nice straight punches right down the middle. You know, just I've seen him consistently land the right hand on people, and I think he's going to do the same to Peteria. I think I'm going to go with a second round knockout for Robert Brizchek. He's going to find those shots in the first round, land some big shots on Poteria. Poteria's going to be fighting back like a zombie, you know, doing what he does best. And it's going to be too late by then. I think by that point, Brizchek's going to find the opening, land a huge shot on Poteria, put his lights out, and it's going to be good night to my boys. So, we move on to the next fight, Dan Eige versus Andre Fili. Guys, this is an absolute fucking banger, man. Make sure you like the video just because of how much of a banger this fight is. I am extremely excited. Alright, so, Dan Eige, a lot of people think this guy's going to win. 81% are going with Dan Eige. And for me, I'm going to be honest with you, this is a bit of a pick and fight. You know, this is really a pick and fight for both dudes. I like Dan Eige here, though, man. Basically, you know, the way to beat Dan Eige is you got to take him down, kind of mix it up with the striking. You know, Dan Eige's only losses really are to Movsar Evloev, Josh Emmett. I thought he beat Josh Emmett, if I'm going to be honest with you. But, you know, he lost to Movsar Evloev, he lost to Bryce Mitchell. These are all, like, not bad losses, man. Honestly, these are all not that bad of losses. While, you know, Andre Fili is getting knocked out by Joe Anderson Brito, which is not bad. But Joe Anderson, you know, Andre Fili's had a bit of a rough stint in the UFC. I think he's like 11-9. He's a veteran at this point, man. But he's tricky. He's tricky to deal with. He's a tough guy. You know, good striking style. You know, really unpredictable with the kicks. Flashy dude. But at the end of the day, I think Dan Eige's got this fight, man. If Andre Fili tries to wrestle Dan Eige, he's not going to be able to keep him down. One thing I've noticed with Andre Fili is, like, unless he can get a body triangle on you and control you on the ground, if he takes you down, you're most likely just going to be able to get back up to your feet. He's not too strong of a guy to control people on the ground. Dan Eige's built like a cinder block, man. This guy's like a little 5'7" midget full of fucking bricks from Hawaii. He's tough as nails. Great chin. Never been finished, I believe. And Andre Fili's chinny, man. Like, I don't want to say it, but he's been knocked out a couple times. You know, he has a good chin, but when he fights these power punches, you know, he goes to sleep most of the time. And regardless, I like this matchup for Dan Eige. Stylistically, it is a good matchup. I think he's going to be able to land the biggest shots as the rounds go by. I would not be surprised if he knocked out Andre Fili. I think Fili's going to play it smart here. I don't think Andre Fili's that dumb to rush in and try and brawl with Dan Eige. I think he will get knocked out cold. So I see this fight being very competitive, very close. I see Andre Fili throwing a lot of kicks, keeping at range, trying to bait Dan Eige into certain shots. Maybe he takes down Dan Eige a lot, you know, kind of mixes it up and confuses Dan Eige. But I think Eige is going to land some good shots on Andre Fili, man. I think he's going to find that chin, either knock out Andre Fili, or he's going to get like a 29-28 decision win. Because, like I said, if Andre Fili mixes it up and starts making an impact in every single round, you know, gets takedowns, does what he does, you know, Dan Eige is going to get straight back up to his feet if he gets taken down. And he's got way more power in his hands than Andre Fili, so he should have the bigger moments. He should land the bigger shots. It should be really exciting, this fight, man. I'm looking really forward to it. 81% are going with Dan Eige, I believe. I will be honest, I think that's a bit too many people backing one side. But I'm going to go with Dan Eige. I'm confident in this fight. I would not be surprised if this fight ended in a split decision. It should favor Dan Eige here, man. I think he's going to land the biggest shots, stuff the takedowns, make more of a intimidating presence in the octagon, unlike Andre Fili. Andre Fili's taking this fight on short notice too, so I don't know how he's really gonna look here. You know, he fought like not even a month ago. He fought 1 month, 2 days ago. I'm just double checking now. So I like this fight for Fili, but I think Dan Eige is super hungry. Like, he's coming off a loss. He does not want to fucking lose. So, at the end of the day, I'm excited, man. It's going to be a bang of a fight, guys. The real winner of this fight are the fans, man. So, let's fucking get straight into it. I got Dan Eige by decision, guys. But we're going to move on into the middleweight division, guys. The fight we've all been waiting for. Joe Pyfer versus Jack Hermansson. Alright, now 86%. A lot of people are going with Joe Pyfer. And myself included, I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer. There's a lot of guys in the middleweight division, man. You see them. You see these guys in the rankings, or you see these guys who, you know, they get into the middleweight division in the UFC. They start winning a bunch of fights outside the top 15, you know, and then they get that one shot. They get that one opportunity to fight a guy in the top 15. They might be on like a 3-fight winning streak before that against guys outside, you know, the top 15, like I keep repeating myself. But, you know, they end up fighting someone who's ranked and they lose. You know, middleweight's one of those divisions where a lot of these guys who are unranked, they go to fight a ranked opponent. They're most likely going to lose. not much new blood really happens in the middleweight division unless you really are that good. And I think Joe Pyfer is fucking good, man. I think Joe Pyfer is really good. I think childhood trauma is the best base for MMA. I know we went extremely off topic with that, but I heard Joe Pyfer's story a couple days ago. Like, I heard a story about him. Like, he used to get the shit kicked out of him by his dad. Like, he had terrible parents growing up. He had a really rough childhood. I have a couple buddies. I have a couple buddies, always telling me like, oh, like, why does this guy always fucking cry and complain and like, like go on like a sad story and this and that. And I can totally understand Joe Pyfer, man. I mean, that's a very traumatic past to have, and he's just really coping with it. I respect Joe Pyfer, man. This dude's a fucking savage. But back to the fight, bro. I don't know. I went on a little rant there. Jack Hermansson is 3-5 in his last 5 fights. 3-2, pardon me. And he's I consider him the gatekeeper of the middleweight division. He can get past certain guys and then he'll lose to like the top caliber. Recently lost to Roman Dolidze, but he made a stupid mistake in that fight. He was easily beating Roman Dolidze on the feet. Decided to go for a takedown, and that completely costed him the fight. But beat Chris Curtis, sent Chris Curtis back to, back outside the rankings, which is pretty interesting. Lost a split decision to Sean Strickland, which I don't think it was a split decision, but regardless, went 5 rounds with Sean Strickland, beat Edmund Shabazian. So he's got good wins, man. He's a veteran in the UFC. I just think Joe Pyfer is fucking legit, man. This guy is huge. Huge for the weight class. One thing I want to get off my chest is I can't believe how fucking big Joe Pyfer is for middleweight. Like, I can't stress that enough. This dude is built like a cinder block. He's built like a Chad. Built like a fucking menace, bro. Like, he looks like a light heavyweight to me. I'm not gonna lie. Jack Hermansson, also 35 years old. He's getting up there in age. He's taken a lot of damage. He's kind of had his opportunities to get to the top, and he's just not been able to do it as of recently. So I don't think Jack Hermansson is elite, man. And compared to Joe Pyfer, I think Joe Pyfer has so much room to improve. He's going to be physically strong in there, man. He's a tough guy to just ragdoll. You're not going to ragdoll Joe Pyfer. A lot of people think Jack Hermansson can win this fight by submission. A lot of people think that Jack Hermansson can survive the onslaught of Joe Pyfer, come back and get like a late stoppage submission win or whatever. I completely disagree, man. I think Joe Pyfer's going to go in there, light this boy up. You cannot be standing there and trading with Joe Pyfer. He's going to put you out. He has insane fucking hands. I'm telling you right now, Dana White said this guy has a bigger punch than Francis Ngannou. Apparently, I don't really believe that at all. But if the boss says it, if Uncle Dana says that shit, then I mean, I guess he does, right? His nickname is Body Bags. Joe Pyfer is on a streak right now, man. This guy is kill or be killed. He does nothing but get finishes. Recently just submitted Abdulrazak Alhassan. He's a fucking monster, dude. I'm not trying to hype up Joe Pyfer, but he's huge for the weight class. He's a ginger. Gingers have insane power, realistically. And he's finishing a lot of these dudes, man. KO, TKO, Jared Mushat. KO, TKO, Alan Amadosky. KO, Ozzy Diaz. Just KO. This guy is KOing everybody. He's a fucking menace. I see him getting Jack Hermansson out of there. I think it's going to be a bit of a tricky fight for him. It's a step up in competition. Jack Hermansson is a very game opponent. Like I've said, Jack Hermansson's like sent people back outside the rankings who try to take his spot. So he is, a very game opponent. He's been in this position before. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer here, guys, with a 3rd round knockout. I think this fight's going to be competitive. I see Jack Hermansson striking with Joe Pyfer. But I think as the fight goes on, man, he's going to get over.